we'll go ahead and get started and call the meeting to order. It looks like Marcella's the only one that is not going to make it tonight. Is that right, Bree?
I did not hear from him this week, but when I did his onboarding, there was one meeting he said he was going to be traveling for, so I wonder if that was this one.
So other than that, we everybody else is here, and we of course have a quorum. Yay! First order of business is consideration of meeting minutes from December 15th meeting. Did everybody have a chance to read them? Were there any amendments or changes or modifications that need to be? If not, I would take a motion to approve.
Moved.
Seconded.
Awesome. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Any public comment of items not on the agenda? We do not have any public here tonight, so we can move on to agenda item number 4, which is review of the next steps of FY27. This is obviously our build-up meeting to where we have a nice month of calm and relaxation before we get to work. So
peaceful.
yeah, Brianna.
All right, so I put some slides together for you just to kind of go over the next steps that you'll be seeing for both of these funding rounds. Not a long presentation by any means, but if you have questions as we go along, please interrupt me. Please feel free to ask. Maybe, here we go. Okay, so the current funding opportunities, we have 2 funding rounds for FY27. Community Development Block Grant, these are our federal funds. This is funding for nonprofits to undertake 2 things, public facility improvements or affordable rental acquisition projects. So public facilities or acquiring housing. And these funds are to assist low to moderate income residents. Federal funds, like I said, these are coming from HUD. We have about $440,000 that we're estimating available. I talked a little bit last time about the uncertainty of the budget, and I will comment again that the continuing resolution is scheduled to end this Friday, so there is a lot of uncertainty around the federal funds again. With the events over the weekend, the HUD funding that they were anticipating passing is wrapped into the bill with the Department of Homeland Security budget. So I'm unsure what that will look like. We'll kind of see how things play out. But these numbers are estimate. We put in the applicant guide and in the announcement that this is just our guess. And if we have more, great. If we have less, we can prorate project awards based on whatever that looks like at the time. So we have $150,000 for public facility improvements, $290,000 for rental housing acquisition. So that is our community development block grant. And now looking separately at this non-legacy aid to agency, I know these are running at the same time, so that can get a little bit confusing, but completely separate funding opportunity here. The FY27 non-legacy aid to agencies is local funding, so it comes out of our general fund. And it's flexible operational funding for nonprofits serving Iowa City residents. Could be a variety of services. This is the funding round. It feels like we just did this since we did it late last time. This is the one where we had many applications and a lot of requests. So this is a tough one when we only have $30,000. So we'll see what this looks like if it's as high demand as it was a couple months ago. Outreach that we've been working on for these opportunities, we started with a press release. We also do some direct outreach to applicants. I know, Marianne, you mentioned maybe sending the CDBG funding announcement to our people that applied for non-legacy funds, so we made sure to do that. We post it on our website. We do announcements and meetings, and then occasionally we'll see, like we sent it to the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition, and they posted it on their social media. So little things like that aren't us posting it directly, but it helps with our network to get that out there. And then we did host an applicant workshop on Zoom, and then some of these screenshots are just from other Corridor Business Journal, other news entities kind of picking up the announcement and posting that as well. So.
Was that very well attended, the Zoom?
Sorry, what was that again?
Was it very well attended?
It wasn't. It was about 3 or 4 agencies, I would say. If people didn't make the Zoom meeting, we'll always meet with people outside of that and go over the same slides that I sent you. Just in case someone's interested late, we'll try to make that work and get them the same information. But no, I would say it's likely to be another quiet round. Monday this week, maybe it was Friday, I sent out just another email blast of this is out here, so we'll see. I think part of this is the most quiet I've seen it in my time here, and I think part of it is just with the ARPA funds that were available. People did a lot of big public facility improvements with funds that are a lot easier to spend, so that could be part of it. Post-COVID, I'm not sure, but hopefully we'll get a few applications at least. People ask good questions. A lot of the questions were related to, like, when you're using federal funds to purchase anything, procurement related questions. So people, it was small attendance, but people were engaged, which I appreciate. Next steps, so applications are due this Friday for both rounds by 12 p.m. noon. Shortly after that, I try to do it the same day, but it could be Monday. We'll post everything publicly for people to see, and we'll share that information with you. We'll try to do a quick turnaround so you have as much time as you can have to review all those applications. Those get sent to you, and those are posted for the public as well. If the public wants to read them, they certainly can. So that will be coming up next, and your next duty will be to just review both sets of those applications. We'll also do a summary for you just to let you know how much funding was requested, who applied, all those typical steps. And then the next piece of this will be the written question and answer session. So as you're reading these applications, every once in a while, there's maybe something that needs clarified, and you have the opportunity to ask that of the applicants. What we're looking for in that, you don't have to ask questions. If you don't have any questions, you feel like it all makes sense as submitted, that's totally fine. We would be asking that you don't ask questions that are maybe completely irrelevant to the funding round. If there's things you want to ask in the future, we like to put those in the application itself just to make sure we're asking everybody the same question. So if you have things like that that maybe you'd want to throw in next time, let us know. Applications due this Friday, and then we're looking for questions to be submitted to staff by February 20th. So if you can send those to me in writing, we'll get those to the applicants, and then they will respond to your questions in writing, and we'll share that with you. We used to do an in-person question and answer session, and we got a lot of feedback from the agencies that the written Q&A session is preferred. And really for commissioners, it's helpful to have everyone have that information in their hand as you're doing your review. Once the Q&A is done, that's really the time for you to ask your questions. Once you're in your March meeting where you're doing funding recommendations, at that point you're kind of having to make decisions based on the information you have in front of you. So if you think you're going to have questions, that's definitely the time to get them in. Any questions about the Q&A process? So far, so good. For the CDBG round, this is just a reminder that staff will prepare a summary sheet for you for each submission. This will be information that maybe only staff has access to, like their history, performance history, that kind of stuff, how they did on other projects. We'll make sure you have that information so you can use it in your scoring. There's also a risk assessment for each project, and this is just looking, with federal funds, we want to make sure we're playing it safe and that everything's going to go according to plan. So we'll do that risk assessment for you, just to review and consider. There's no summary sheet for the non-legacy submissions. Since there's no scoring, you have more kind of discretion as a commission. So that can be good or that can be hard, but two little different procedures there. So for each CDBG submission, you can expect this summary sheet. This is what it looks like, and it corresponds directly to the scoring criteria. So as you're going through it, it should give you everything you need. Scoring and funding recommendations. So staff will make
Excuse me.
Yeah, sure.
So can you go back to the
Yeah,
scoring
absolutely.
sheet? Maybe I didn't hear you well. Where in this sheet do we incorporate risk assessment? Is it which?
This screenshot is actually, it's I think a 2 or 3 page document depending on how long the proposal is. So the second page of this that's not in the screenshot will include the risk assessment.
Oh, this, okay.
Yeah, sorry, that's not in the slide here. The very bottom of this, we also try to do staff calculations for you. If it's just something that's a formula and we can do the math for you, we'll get that to you. But the risk assessment would be on the back side of the summary sheet.
Thanks.
Scoring and funding recommendations. We'll provide funding recommendations for both CDBG and non-legacy rounds. For the CDBG projects, we like to give you our staff score. When we have multiple competing CDBG projects, we're really looking at that score to guide our funding recommendations. We'll give you rationale like we did last time. It's usually in the form of a staff memo to provide that information to you. It'll have scores or whatever information we consider to make our recommendations. I always tell people you don't have to agree with staff. It's, you have however many people in this room, not everyone's going to have the same opinion, so that's completely fine. We'll give you the information from our perspective, but don't feel obligated to agree. We have I mentioned last time when we went through the CDBG round, we got a new software that staff kind of tested out last time for the scoring portion. So if you're feeling brave, are you willing to try the software for the scoring round?
Yep.
Okay. And that may be good. If it's another small round, this may be a good kind of trial and error. We'll see how it goes. It went fine last time. I'll show you on the next screen when I get there what it looks like. At the March HCDC meeting, that's when you'll start doing your, you'll have the staff scores, you'll have the staff recommendations, and that's when you kind of need to come to the meeting prepared to discuss, maybe where you agree with staff, maybe where your scores were way different, kind of your rationale and what you're going to be using to make those decisions. So March will be the meeting where you're making your recommendations to City Council. This is a screenshot of the Neighborly software. The way it works is I will add you, I think the link expires within 2 weeks, so we'll have to figure out the timing, but you'll receive an email that you're added as a reviewer in Neighborly software. You make a very easy account like you would for anything else online. You log in and it basically has our scoring criteria all programmed in. So, it says 20 points available. You put whatever points you think the proposal needs, and then over here you'd be able to review the application. Everything's kind of attached in one spot. So if there's software issues, if something's not working, we can always go back to the Excel sheet if we're just like, this isn't going to work at this round. We did test it last time and it all worked normally, but you never know. It's new. So we'll try it and see how it goes. Any questions about the software?
There's ability to save it, right?
Yes, yes, you'll be able to save it.
How about editing? If you saved it, you can go back to it.
Yeah, it will save.
Span, yeah.
It'll save, and then you can go back into it. And when you're done, I believe there's a submit button. I think even if you submitted it to me and you were like, oh, I want to change this, I think I could go in and reopen it for you as long as we did it, with enough time before the meeting. But the Neighborly company, their software team, they provide us with support. So if we have any issues, they're able to help us. I also have a request in. I wanted them to do like a demo video for you guys that I could send it to you. So when you get into whenever you want to do your scoring, you could have that for reference. So that request is in. Hopefully they can prepare something for us just to have as reference. So this will be for CDBG only. For non-legacy, you guys went through that last time, and that's more of kind of discussion and your discretion. So any other Neighborly scoring questions? General tips, please make sure you ask questions. We can meet with you. I can answer questions via email. You can call me. We can have a Zoom meeting. I can meet you in person. Whatever is going to help you. We used to do kind of like an office hours where we would set up in the conference room over there and just kind of wait and see if anyone showed up. Didn't get a lot of inquiries on that, so we'll just plan to, if you need anything, reach out and we'll find something that works based on your schedule. So. Applicants are invited to listen to the March HCDC meeting, so just keep that in mind. This is kind of what I was getting at related to the Q&A portion. Sometimes when people are in the room, let's say you have 20 applicants, you have 5 people in the room, you might be tempted to ask them a question, but at that point, the next day I will be getting emails about the 15 people that were not in the room, just trying to keep that process fair. So if you have questions, please ask them, but just make sure they're in the Q&A section so everyone has a chance to have access to the same information, and we can kind of try to keep the process fair that way. Document-wise, I usually send everything out electronically. If there's anything you want printed, you want hard copies of anything, I'm happy to do that, whatever is the easiest for you to review. Some of the supporting documents can get quite long, tax returns, those kind of things. We saw Kyle's binder last time. I think that was like a foot tall, so Whatever is most convenient for you, I'm happy to make that work. So maybe Marianne or Kyle, do you have any other tips? You've been through this several
Start
times.
early. My especially first probably year and a half, I made the mistake of like, oh, I'll get to it, and then I'd get the message from Brianna or saying, hey, are you going to submit scores? And I'd be, trying to rush through things at the last minute. Start early because it'll be the second or third read through when you start realizing the questions you want to ask, and at that point, it's too late to submit them. And that's the big one. And don't hesitate to reach out to staff if you have questions about anything.
Yeah, if the scores come in for the CDBG, if the scores come in like the day of the meeting, then it can throw off the entire ranking and all of that stuff. So yeah, like Kyle said, start early and get them in when the staff need them.
Yeah, we try to do the packet a week before the meeting. So if we can get scores in the week before, I think the March meeting, we moved to maybe the 4th week instead of the 3rd.
That's March 26th, I think.
Yeah, so if I can have scores the week before, that'd be great. If it's, a give or take a day, I think that would be fine to post it maybe a day later than usual, but that is helpful to the group to kind of have time to look at that.
I didn't know you were left-handed. Oh,
That's on my calendar. Any other questions? Anything that would help you?
Yeah, I guess I have a I have a question. I just want to go over again for the non-legacy grant. The goal is for, I think that you said for like operations. Can you just go over again like briefly what is the overarching purpose and whether or not
Yes.
like if someone was awarded this last session, are they eligible for award again? I just have some questions like that.
Yes, that's a good question. So the non-legacy round, to remind you, there's the legacy aid to agencies funding round, which is the big portion of the budget, and then 5% is set aside for non-legacy. This is the last non-legacy funding round that we're going to be doing before we switch to a different process. So you'll have to learn this and then kind of forget, and we'll shift things around. But so these are operational funds. We have had nonprofits receive more funding than 1 year. Staff typically, there's no firm rule. Staff typically will not recommend funding an organization more than twice. And this is where, maybe you feel differently about that and you can make whatever recommendation to city council that you'd like to do. It's not a firm rule, but the idea when the program came into place was that it used to be called emerging aid to agencies, meaning like, I don't know, the question was always, what are you emerging into? But it was meant for newer nonprofits to kind of get started and then move into something else. I would say that's shifted over time, but staff typically won't recommend more than 2 years of funding.
And traditionally, that is part of the application questionnaire. As it asks, what other funding have you gotten from the city in previous years? And it'll say,
I feel like you had another question in there that maybe I lost track of.
Oh, I guess too, just, does that include, so I think the last time there was kind of like, at least for me, there was this, like how much like operationally, like the purpose or like short term or, like long term, like kind of like stopgap for an applicant. So just with like the spirit of it, was there a previous view about like, operational costs, whether it was like intended for or specifically intended like away from operational costs for a program?
I would say there's some discretion that the commission has to look at this. The way we're looking at it as staff is operational funds for something that they could spend within the fiscal year. So typically that'd be maybe salaries and benefits, rent, those kind of things. As far as impact, I think you guys had a lot of good discussion last time on what that looks like. Like, are you looking for the maximum impact? Are you looking for the most individuals served? I thought you guys had a really productive conversation on what you want to see with these funds. So this funding round is a lot less strict than CDBG. It has a lot less rules. The applicant guide is 2 pages here. So the overarching purpose of this funding is just to serve low to moderate income residents in Iowa City. It could be a variety of services. We have the priorities here, and these were identified by the community through our consolidated planning process. So the focus on homeless and shelter services, food insecurity, healthcare, childcare and youth services, housing stability services, and transportation are the big priorities that we're looking for. I think I'm giving you an ambiguous answer, but I think there might not be a firm answer to that question.
No, I think that's helpful. I think that, some grants are very specifically like that they allow or are not prioritizing like operational costs like staff or like especially staff and benefits. So it's good to know that it is explicitly within the spirit to consider.
Yeah, we get a lot of feedback from nonprofits about that because that's not the things that funders usually want to fund. So the nonprofit community has said this is an important funding source, legacy, non-legacy, whichever way you want to slice it, just because everybody needs staff, everybody needs a space to work in, so it might not be as glamorous as funding, a specific program or something like that, but those operational costs are important.
Any other questions? All right, just before we move on, I do see we have public here. We had skipped past the public comment, but if you have any interest in telling us anything, or just hanging out and watching? Okay, all right. Welcome, yeah. Then the next is staff and commission updates. Does anybody from the commission have any updates or anything they want to share? Anything else from staff? I know there was the joint joint entities meeting. Did it ever happen?
The meeting happened, but the agenda item was deferred, and
Okay.
I don't have any additional information on that yet. I was hoping to hear more from Emily with United Way, but once I hear that, I'll share that with you. Hopefully that gets rescheduled, and we can hear more about the nonprofit collective. The only other thing I wanted to call your attention to in the packet was just the update from Neighborhood Centers of Johnson County. They just finished a public facility projects with CDBG funds for their childcare space, and they had some photos in there that are always fun to see. So
Yeah, especially the upstairs bathroom.
Yeah.
Quite a difference.
yeah.
Yeah.
Brianna, do you have any information on planning for allocation of the local option sales tax?
That's a good question. There was a budget session this weekend, and I think those conversations are starting to happen. I think there's general pots of money set aside, but I don't have any specifics yet on what that's going to look like. Those are definitely conversations that are happening, and when I know more about what that looks like and what opportunities for input there is, I'll definitely share that with you.
Thank you.
So after all of this settles down with the recommendations for allocations, is there a possibility at some meeting we could have somebody come in from neighborhood center or neighborhood department, whatever you guys are called, to talk about the affordable housing fund that's been generated through Riverfront Crossings District and
Yes.
what's the legalities of how that's spent, and what the district is?
Yes, we can definitely do that. There was a presentation that Tracy Heitshoe is the director of Neighborhood and Development Services, and she did a presentation for council once that it was about that portion of funding, but it was also about broader affordable housing resources at the city in general that I think you might find interesting, and we can focus on that as well. Are you interested in Riverfront Crossing specifically?
I'm just interested in the TIF law for that and what that means for the fund that's been created.
Yeah, sure. We can definitely add that to the agenda. It's helpful sometimes, in the more quiet months to have things that you're interested in to plug in presentations on.
I have a question on, it's related to the CDBG, but this is over time, a general question on the distribution of our grants and monies in terms of locations, different parts of the city, where we are trying to fund low-income housing and subsidized housing. Do we have a study that can tell me clearly, to guide me on when I'm making a decision on next round of funding? Do we have a study that relates to something like that?
So,
Time.
yes. So the way things have changed a lot over time, there used to be a map called the Affordable Housing Location Model, which Marianne probably experienced a lot of. It used to be kind of prohibitive on where you could locate housing. Like there were certain areas where you couldn't have a federally funded CDBG project. So in the last few years, I would say we've moved away from that map just to incentivize housing anywhere. Like we really need any kind of affordable housing, and we've moved away from the restrictive model. The way we've approached it recently is when you're reviewing the applications, you'll see there's a question on for applicants to explain, I forget the wording, but it's about explain how you're incentivizing or producing housing in all different areas of Iowa City. We have I think we called it a heat map of all of the subsidized housing in the city. So the areas that are more red are areas of concentrated housing. And we're really looking for units to be spread throughout all of the city, not in one specific area, but trying to spread things out to different neighborhoods. So the current strategy is more of a heat map related focus. So when you're doing your funding decisions, applicants will have to answer how they're doing that. Are they doing that? And I think that's part of the scoring criteria as well. So when you're scoring the proposal, you'll be looking at that to see, did it meet this?
So there will be some information furnished to us regarding that heat map study.
Yes, and it will be up to the applicant to explain how they're meeting that intention. Any other questions?
I was trying to find that heat map because I remember seeing that at one time under the Affordable Housing Fund, the Opportunity Fund, I think, page, but I'm not seeing it now.
I can, as a follow-up to this meeting, I can find the most recent one and send it to you.
Well, I have nothing. If nobody else has anything, I would be happy to head on to agenda item number 6. I would take a motion to adjourn
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
Perfect. All in favor, say
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.